Hey, Nathan.
What?
Yo, mama.
That's rude.
Well, yo, mama.
Yo, mama.
Your mom.
Yeah. I don't even... Let's get into that.
All right. Hey, I'm Andrew Warnock.
I'm Nathan Warnock.
And you've joined us for Family Friday on the Marriage by Design podcast. And this is a time that we get to talk about God's design for family, how He has written to us in His Word about parenting and family, and how we apply that to our lives.
Right. So what are we talking about today, babe?
But today, we're talking about our moms. Your mom.
Nice.
And my mom.
That's right.
So we just had Mother's Day.
They're not the same mom, by the way.
Yeah.
If you were wondering.
Wow, that would be really weird. So we had we had Mother's Day this week, and we thought that this would be a really great opportunity to talk a little bit about our moms and just honor them a little bit and talk about some things that we've learned from them. So, I think, right?
Yeah.
All right. So I just wanted to give you guys some things that we've learned from them and how we've grown from their influence in our lives. And part of the reason for doing this is to just honor them, but also to hopefully have you think about the things that you've learned from your mom and the legacy that she has, she's made in your life, and how you can continue to, keep that legacy going. And
right.
Teaching your kids about, these are the things that I learned from my mom and the great things that I'm passing down to you too. And I think those are all good things.
Yeah, that's great.
So I thought we could start with my mom.
Okay.
So my mom has been my mom for 30 some odd years.
That's true. Ever since the beginning, some might say.
So my mom grew up in a Bible believing household. Her father was actually a minister and a missionary, so grew up in a great home. And she has, one of the greatest things that she's passed on to me is a desire for the Lord, and she has made that her own. So she grew up, in a great family, Bible believing family, but she at some point in her life made that faith her own. And then she and my dad taught that to us.
Right.
And they continued that legacy of faith being the most important thing, and that it has to be something that's your own. And so that's one thing that I really credit both of my parents for sure with teaching me and the importance of faith and having your life really reflecting the Lord. So
yeah.
So that's something
it's great
that she's passed down to me. And then another thing is, she has always said that relationships are more important than things or getting things done or whatever. So like, relationships are more important than cleaning the house, or relationships are more important than whatever, So she's always placed those as a high priority. She's got a lot of friends, and she's got a lot of close friends, and she has always made time for those people, and I appreciate that a lot about her. So I've learned a lot about friendship from her. And actually, she was on the month that we were talking about friendship to talk about some things in regards to friendship, because she does that so well. And I have watched her through the years and observed that and noticed how much she puts into her relationships and desires to meet the needs of her friends and just spend quality time with them, and sometimes, let things go like that she maybe wanted to get done in order to prefer her friends and prefer those relationships. So those are things that are important and have been passed down to me as well.
Sure.
Seeing how important those relationships are, and being willing to sow into those, and being willing to sacrifice for relationships. So there's some great things. And she's good at sowing into her own family too, of course, as that her family are her friends. So those are a couple things that kind of come to the top of my brain about my mom that I really appreciate about her.
That's great. It's interesting, those things that you have picked up on that you really appreciate about her.
Yeah.
That's great. I probably, one of the things I like the most about your mom, and I'm probably an outlier in this a little bit because I don't know that it's something that you and your brother love about your mom, but I love your mom is always so inquisitive about things, and
That's great.
Particularly like biblical things, and sometimes it can come across as being contrarian, and certainly she can be that way, as I can be at times. But I always have appreciated that it's always born for her, I believe, out of a true desire to figure out the deeper things of the Lord, and I appreciate that. I mean, it's far too rare in modern society to find people that really want to ponder the deeper things of the Lord, and I always love that about your mom, and her and I have really long involved conversations.
Yeah, that's fun.
And back and forth talks about some of the finer points of the Bible, and things that her and I ultimately at the end of those conversations have to honestly walk away going, I don't know, like, right? We don't know the answer to that because the Bible doesn't give us all the information we need in order to make an informed understanding of heaven and eternity and death and the final days of humanity and what the millennium reign's going to look like, and
right.
and what Jesus' life looked like and what it means to be fully God and fully human. All these things that I think are deeper ponderings of the Bible, and I think the Lord includes some of those details in the Bible because He desires us to stand in wonder of Him. And I know for a lot of people they don't like to talk about those things because it can become combative. And I suppose occasionally it can become that way with your mom or with any of us. But I've always gotten the feeling from her that she just thinks about these deeper things and wants to know everybody else's thoughts because it might inform or change her own thoughts about those issues. So I've always appreciated that, and certainly your mom's a leader in hospitality, and that's something that's great about your mom. I mean, if you've ever get a chance to have a meal with Andrea's mom and dad, it's an event. I mean, there's no like, hey, let's just get together and I'll warm something up, right? I mean, it's an event to have a meal at your parents' house, and that's an amazing thing. I mean, the heart of the Lord is a heart of hospitality. And that is a skill set that is being quickly lost. And I love that it's not lost with both your mom and dad, but particularly with your mom.
Sure. Yeah, as you were talking, I was realizing I forgot to say that, but she is an amazing hostess, and my dad is a great host, and together they make a really phenomenal team. I mean, they're amazing.
The food's always great. Atmosphere is always great. Very welcoming. Very warm.
Yep.
It's awesome.
And I've learned a lot from that. And I don't think that I will ever be at the level my mom is with hosting and cooking for people and all that. But definitely I've learned a lot from that. And I appreciate that because inviting people into your home is something that really deepens a relationship. And a lot of times I think breaks down walls or barriers or uncomfortability or whatever, and so inviting them into your home and sharing a meal with them is something really special. And that's what we find, at least. And I was able to learn a lot of that from my mom, and still do learn a lot of that from my mom because I have a lot of growing to do in that area. But it's fun to have people over and not be a complete buffoon with it. So
yeah, that's a biblical thing too. So for those of us that go, well, having people into your home for a meal is not really a thing anymore. It should be. I mean, that was something that we recognized biblically was a big deal. It was certainly cultural to that Middle Eastern culture at the time of Christ, but that doesn't mean it needed to only be cultural to that. I mean, they viewed they looked at sharing a meal as one of the most intimate things you could do with another person, because as they still do in the Middle East, oftentimes food is served communally. And so, there's, at the time of Christ, everybody would get some bread, and then they would pass around these, meat and sort of stew like, dips, and you would dip your bread in, and then you would eat it, and you'd dip it in again. And of course, there were no rules about double dipping at the time of Christ. And so literally you were sharing spit with other people around the table. And I'm not trying to put a gross point on it. I'm trying to make the point that they recognized that. And rather than going, ew, COVID, they went, man, this is like, I'm literally, when we have a meal, we're becoming part of each other.
Yes.
Right? Not to put too graphic of a point on it. That's how they looked at it. And so one of the most intimate things you could do, and privileged things you could do with another person, was invite them into your home for a meal.
Yep.
And, we've lost sight of how intimate of a thing that is. And, forgetting the swapping spit part of it, it is an intimate thing to have somebody else around your table and seeing into your home and into how you live your lives.
Yep.
And we could do better about that.
That's
And
a great
your
thing.
mom's great about it.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, for sure.
So then we'll move on to your mom. So I was so blessed to marry into a family where I don't have a monster-in-law. I have a really wonderful mother-in-law and father-in-law too. And a lot of siblings that I've gained along the way, who are great as well. So I recognize that that's a huge benefit to me, and it's really a beautiful thing. And having a mother-in-law that I often think about how I want to be as a mother-in-law, and a lot of things that I'm taking, I'll take away from my relationship with my mother-in-law, because I want to be somebody who's warm and welcoming, and who, desires a good relationship with my daughters-in-law and son-in-law, and my mother-in-law is like that too. So,
babe, you know how we know that the Garden of Eden was, or we know how we know that Adam didn't have a mother-in-law?
How?
Because the Garden of Eden was perfect.
Yes, that's right. My father-in-law was telling some really funny mother-in-law jokes the other day, and that was one of them.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
So,
funny.
My mother-in-law, some of the greatest things that I've learned from her is, this one is actually monumental to me. So I came into the family 17 years ago, and my mother-in-law has 5 children, and she has always been all about family. I mean, that is definitely a huge priority to her, and she does a lot to make sure that her family is, underneath God, the most important, and that that family relationship between each other, with each other, is very important. And she did a lot in raising her kids and to make that important for her kids, and in teaching them that that's so important. But she also does a lot, now that we're all grown, or you're all grown and have your own lives, she also does a lot to really keep that mentality going. And so there was a lot that I learned from that. And since I met the Warnocks, I thought, I think I might want a big family. I love the way their family enjoys spending time with each other, and they love relationship with each other. So really my thoughts of having a lot of kids, 4 or more kids, started with Nathan's family, because of the way that they ran, and seeing how my mother-in-law was so good to put family first a lot, and make it so that everybody in her family understood family is the most important underneath God.
Yeah, that's right.
And
She's
we're
great
going
at that.
to, she is. We're going to act that way. We're going to operate that way. And that's how our lives are going to continue on, into the future. And so, I've learned a ton from that, and in how I teach my little kids and bring them up, and even thinking about in the future how that's going to affect how we are as a family in the future as our kids grow up and get out of the house. So that's huge, and it's a big thing that I've learned from your mom. Not just saying like we're a family and we're important, but how to really live that out.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one big thing. And then another thing that I've learned, she's also really great at hosting people, and a lot of times it's her big family that she's hosting, and big family including like extended family and all that. And she's so great at doing that and very gracious. She's just kind of a roll with the go with the flow, roll with it. If every room in her house is filled up with people and she's got 20 people there for 3 meals a day for 5 days, she seems like fine with it. That's great. No problem. Right. Doesn't stress her out.
Right.
She's just go with the flow and a very like easygoing hostess, and I love that about her.
Yeah, it's a funny thing because she is a great hostess and your mom is a great hostess, and they're very different.
Yes.
Like your mom's going to a dinner at your mom's house is like going to like a fine restaurant, right, and like just super nice and every detail's in place. And it's funny because then going to dinner at my mom's house is like going home to dinner.
Right.
Like, and I don't just mean that because she's my mom. I mean, it's like, oh, everybody come in and let's all just get into whatever. Sure. Right? I mean, it's just very different, but they're both great.
Yes,
and I love the way they both host.
Yes.
So
your mom's great. Also, your parents both are both very generous.
Yeah.
And that's definitely a big thing I've learned from them.
Right.
Yeah,
right. That's great. Yeah, I mean, there's a ton I've learned from my mom. I mean, my mom was, made the decision when I was very young to stay home with us as her kids full time, and it didn't work from the time I was very young until 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. So, she was always home. And so, I definitely didn't appreciate that when I was young. I didn't appreciate that till I was much older. So if you stay at home with your kids and you're watching this or listening to this and you feel like you're not appreciated, you're right. But your kids will grow into that as they mature and recognize what a blessing that is. It's funny when the Bible talks about kids with regards to mothers, it says your kids will rise up and call you blessed. And I think of that a little bit from the standpoint of like your kids will grow up and call you blessed. That's how I think of it like too. Your 4-year-old's not calling you blessed. They're too busy trying to get you to do stuff for them. And really the same thing with your 14-year-olds, right?
Yeah, they're trying to get you to bless them.
Yeah. Right. But if you persevere and allow the Holy Spirit to work through you, then your kids will understand the blessing that they had. And that certainly was the case with my relationship with my mom. Her and I were disagreed on a lot of things pretty strongly. And I'm sure on most of those things I was wrong growing up. But, the fact that she loved me no matter what, and, all those things that are so precious for a mom to give to her kids. My mom did all those things, ran our house, amazingly well. I mean, it's funny, we talk now that all of us boys are grown, and my dad talks about how much he traveled when we were young, and it's funny because all of us don't really remember him traveling that much. Like, he did. I mean, my mom, it's not like I think he's making it up. It's just that our house ran so smoothly that there wasn't any like, oh, something major is missing, right? And that's quite a feat for someone to pull off. So,
sure.
So yeah, I appreciate that about my mom. The other thing, as I've gotten older, that I appreciate about my mom is my mom's super discerning spiritually, and she's very my mom's not going to be one that's going to like get in the weeds with debating doctrine with you. That's not really something that she's interested in doing. But walking into a room and being able to have conversations with people and have that sense of something isn't quite right with this person, or something isn't quite right with this situation, or, man, I feel like we should call this person, or I feel like we should have a conversation with this other person. She's really blessed in that regard.
Yeah. That's great. So, hopefully, I know my moms are probably going to watch this. And so part of saying this is thank you. I love you both so much.
Me too.
I'm so blessed to have you both in my life, and just wanted to tell you a couple reasons why I think you're amazing. And so if you're watching this, I hope that this encourages you to think of the lessons you've learned along the way from the mothers or mother figures that you've had in your life, and how you can continue on that legacy in your life to your own kids. But also take the time to thank those women in your life, whether it's your mom or somebody else who was like a mother to you. Take the time to thank them, because they might not know, or maybe they do, and it's really great to hear it.
Yeah,
we say the greatest things about people at their funerals when they're not even there to hear it. So let's start saying these things to people when they're alive, to hear them.
Right.
I think it's such a blessing to people to really encourage them that way. So
about your mom.
Your mom.
Your
mama. So I hope you enjoyed hearing a little bit about our moms, but more importantly, I want you to think of the legacy that those mother figures have started in your life, and how you can intentionally continue to live that out, and how maybe you can think about your own mothering differently.
Yep. Yeah, what's the legacy that you're leaving? As parents, we should be legacy minded.
Totally. And then tell those women in your life what they mean to you.
That's right.
So, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening to us. Hope you enjoyed that.
Happy Mother's Day if you are a mother.
Yes, happy late Mother's Day for sure. And join us on Sunday as we talk live at 8 Central.
Yeah, about your mama.
About, yo mama. And marriage things and parenting things.
That's right.
And then join us for Marriage Monday then the next week.
Yeah, guys. Thanks so much for being here. And remember, God is for your family.
Hey, thanks for joining us on Marriage by Design. If you were impacted by this video, like it by hitting the thumbs up below. Also, don't forget to subscribe, and once you subscribe, hit the bell icon so you can be notified when new episodes release.
Excellent. Also, one of the huge pillars of our show is interactivity between us and you. So we would love you to comment down in the comments below if you have thoughts about this video, or if you have questions or other things you'd like to see considered in the future. In addition, if you'd like, you can email us. That's marriagebydesignpodcast@gmail.com. We're also on Instagram @marriagebydesignpodcast, or you can find us on Facebook by searching Marriage by Design Podcast. Finally, if you want to, you can tweet at us. We do have a Twitter account that is @MarriageXDesign. Thanks, and have a great day.